Ever wondered how trade fights between countries affect the cars we use? The European Union is in the news for putting high taxes on Chinese electric cars. They want fair competition in the clean energy market. Let's look into why these taxes are happening, compare them to what the United States is doing, and talk about what this could mean for people who drive and make cars in Europe. Find out if China's electric cars can keep going strong with these new challenges in Europe. The European Union is raising taxes on electric cars imported from China. This is one of the many trade disputes regarding Chinese government subsidies and the increasing number of green technology exports to the EU's 27 member states. These higher taxes will begin on Friday and will remain in force for at least 4 months until a decision is made. Here are some important facts about the new tax proposals of the EU. After 8 months of research, the European Commission, which is the main authority of the EU, discovered that Chinese companies manufacturing electric cars enjoy state subsidies. This support enables them to price their product lower than their counterparts in the EU, hence grabbing a large market share and thus a threat to European employment. On June 12th, the Commission announced increased taxes, which start this Friday. These taxes are temporary, which implies that they are computed but will not be collected until the EU governments ratify them by November 2nd. The EU will only collect these taxes if other investigations reveal that European auto companies would be greatly affected if the taxes are not collected. This gives the EU and China time to negotiate. Discussions have already been held with the EU's Economy Commissioner Valdis Dombrovskis and Chinese Trade Minister Wang Wentao and technical teams. The increased taxes are not the goal, but a tool to solve an unfair situation, Commission spokesman Eric Mammer said on Thursday. We hope to find a solution that avoids moving forward with these measures. If implemented, the rates would be as follows: 17.4% for cars from BYD, 19.9% for Geely vehicles, and 37.6% for cars exported by China's state-owned SAIC. Geely has Polestar and Volvo, while SAIC has MG, one of the best-selling electric vehicles in Europe. Other EV makers in China, including those from the West, such as Volkswagen, BMW, and Tesla, would attract tariffs of at least 20.8%. The Commission also pointed out that Tesla could get a special rate if the duties are set, which is quite possible. EU rules allow for the possibility, albeit small at the moment, that the higher duties could be stopped before the start of November 2nd by a qualified majority vote of at least 15 of the 27 EU member governments, representing at least 65% of the population of the entire EU. In the opinion of the Commission, Chinese electric cars increased from 9% of the EV market in 2020 to 25% by September 2023, partly by engaging in predatory pricing compared to EU industry average. The Commission states that Chinese companies achieved this through various subsidies throughout their production chain, from getting cheap land for factories from local governments to procuring lithium and batteries at below market price from state-owned enterprises and enjoying tax exemptions and low-interest financing from state-controlled banks. This rapid increase in market share has led to fears that Chinese cars could one day pose a threat to the EU's capacity to autonomously produce green technology needed to fight climate change. Besides, it threatens the employment of 2.5 million workers directly employed in the auto industry and another 10.3 million people whose employment is related to electric vehicle production in an indirect manner. Cheap solar panels from China have brought a lot of harm to the European producers, something that European governments do not want to experience in the auto industry. Notably, the European Commission acted on its own volition and not because of a complaint from the European auto industry. Automakers in countries such as Germany, where BMW, Volkswagen, and Mercedes-Benz are based, have also voiced doubts about the subsidy investigation. This skepticism is due to the fact that many of the affected cars are manufactured by European firms. Moreover, there's apprehension about potential Chinese retaliation against the auto industry or other sectors. The Biden administration is raising tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles to 100% from the current 25%, which effectively means that almost no Chinese EVs will be allowed into the U.S. market. But the European Union is doing it differently. European officials want to let cheap electric cars from abroad meet their 55% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 goal, but not with what they consider unfair subsidies for Chinese makers. The proposed tariffs by the EU are intended to offset the amount of excessive or unfair subsidies received by Chinese car makers to a degree of the size of the EU. However, it is also necessary to mention that European countries also subsidize electric cars, but the question is whether these subsidies are fair and open to all manufacturers or not, which is the main problem in trade disputes. Chinese car makers have been able to bring down the cost of manufacturing electric vehicles due to cutthroat competition in the largest car market in the world. For instance, BYD's Seal U Comfort model costs about 21,769 euros in China and 41,990 euros in Europe, as per the Rhodium Group data. The entry-level version of BYD's compact Seagull, which is planned for Europe next year, costs around $10,000 equivalent in China. The effect of the duties on the price of cars is still unknown. Chinese car makers have demonstrated the capability of producing cars so cheaply that they could absorb the duties by cutting their profit margins rather than passing the costs to customers. Although this may seem to be advantageous to consumers by offering cheaper Chinese cars, the European Commission has argued that allowing unfair practices may in the long run reduce competition and increase prices. Currently, Chinese car makers often sell their vehicles in Europe at significantly higher prices than in China, prioritizing profit margins despite their recent market growth. According to calculations by the Rhodium Group, 5 out of 6 models from BYD would still generate profits in Europe even with a 30% tariff. There is concern in Europe that Chinese competitors might adjust their prices to align more closely with those in China, potentially capturing an even larger share of the market. Beijing strongly criticized the increased duties as naked protectionism when they were announced. On Thursday, He Yadong, spokesperson for the Chinese Commerce Ministry, mentioned that both sides have engaged in multiple technical consultations. He emphasized that the EU's final decision is still 4 months away. He expressed hope for mutual sincerity and expedited consultations to reach a solution based on facts and rules that both the EU and China can accept. He also urged the EU to seriously consider the concerns voiced by European automakers and governments opposing the tariffs, and to avoid anti-subsidy measures that could harm cooperation between Chinese and European auto industries. The specifics of any potential agreement remain unclear, but one option could involve setting minimum prices for Chinese cars. China may consider retaliatory measures against European products like pork, brandy, or luxury cars. Looking ahead, Chinese car makers could potentially sidestep tariffs by producing cars within Europe itself. For instance, BYD is constructing a plant in Hungary, while Chery has a joint venture to manufacture cars in Spain's Catalonia region. That wraps up for today's video. While these taxes aim to ensure fair competition in the clean energy market, they might also influence prices and market dynamics in Europe. How do you think these tariffs will affect the future of electric vehicles in Europe? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more updates on global trade issues.